Call it changing the odds of youth from disadvantaged circumstances or breaking the cycle of poverty. Either way, the Wyman Center is doing just that. And today we're going to discuss how this long-standing nonprofit has been partnering with communities to provide teens with the opportunities and support they need to face life and achieve great success. Please stay with us next on City Corner. Hi, I'm Sarah Thompson and welcome to City Corner. Today we're going to be learning about the Wyman Center, which does amazing work not just here in St. Louis, but really has affected the nation. And we're going to discuss that and helping the lives of teens. So we're going to get into that. But today I'm joined by Dave Hilliard. He's the president and CEO of Wyman Center. So thank you for being here.
It's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, thank you. So we have a lot to talk about, and we were talking, prior to the show starting, there's just so much work that the Wyman Center does. But first, just give us the basics. What does the nonprofit do?
Wyman Center is a national expert in the development of teens with a focus on disadvantaged teens, helping them acquire the skills and abilities they need to navigate risk and seize opportunities so they can be successful citizens, contribute to their own communities, and have successful lives.
Okay, so the organization's been around since 1898,
Right.
So quite long. And how has it changed over the years? Because if you say Wyman in the St. Louis area, a lot of people think of Camp Wyman.
Right.
But now, we're talking about sort of national education initiatives and President Obama. You've really changed the organization over the years.
Sure, the organization has really evolved, but those core roots from Camp Wyman back in 1898, I've been there a long time. And one of the things that I did early in my career was actually go back through the early documents of the camp. And we were founded as an organization to make a difference in young people's lives. And I knew that when I dug into the literature. The foundress of the camp, one of the first people who worked there, she had 3 goals that she wanted to achieve for kids, and she designed a program that would produce the results that she had for those kids. Now, in today's world, the goals might seem a little narrow. She wanted to send every kid home 5 pounds heavier with color in their cheeks and improved character.
Right.
But then she designed a program to do that. She fed them fat and starch and carbohydrates 3 times a day, and she kept them in the sun so they would get color in their cheeks. And then Washington University and our founder, Frank Wyman, would produce plays and tell character building stories about how you pulled yourself up from your bootstraps. And their focus back then was kids living in difficult circumstances in tenements, working in sweatshops. The air and quality of life in the city were tough. Cholera was around and coal smoke. And so they really had the objective of improving kids' health and well-being. And we have those same kinds of objectives today. The challenges and opportunities, both for kids today, teens are dramatically different than they were back then. But Wyman has always had this focus of putting kids on a trajectory for success, designing programs that will produce outcomes, and then taking them to scale. And we've done that successfully here for more than 100 years. And in the past 5 or 6 years have really been elevated to the national platform.
Right, so speaking of the national, let's talk about, so Wyman Center, Wyman has several programs that it works on, but talk about the Teen Leadership Program, which does have sort of national reach.
Sure, so the Teen Leadership Program was the outgrowth of the camp.
Okay.
The Teen Outreach Program
is the national.
Is the big one now. So about 20 years ago, Wyman knew the value of its work at the camp, but really wondered how do we contribute to the lives of kids year round, because the literature was really telling us that in today's world, different than 40 years ago when I started, in today's world, teens need the continuity of supports, particularly teens who come from circumstances of risk and poverty. So how do we connect with them during the school year? That was the real question, and we discovered this program called the Teen Outreach Program, created by the Junior League of Greater St. Louis in the late 70s, kind of left town to be researched and evaluated, was picked up by a national program replicator in Houston, and we found it again in 1997 when we moved into work in public housing here. Began to do the program, kids love it, produces great outcomes, and then we were challenged to think about how do you take this program to scale with fidelity. We bought the program in 2005, developed a model by which other people could be trained to replicate the program, but managed by us, so we were sure that they were doing it according to the model to produce outcomes. And then in a series of events that ended up with the administration, our current administration, though, by the way, I will say this was one of Bill Clinton's best practices, it was one of Laura Bush's best practices, and now the Obama administration said, you know, it's time that we begin to experiment differently about how we invest public funds. We want to invest for outcomes. We had a program that produced outcomes, and in a national competition, we literally came out #1. Wow. And so we went from a small program with a model of how we could replicate to overnight, we had to be in 20 cities working with 20,000 kids, and in the last 2 years we've grown that to 45 communities in 30 different states, reaching 60,000 kids.
And this is a program, so people sort of watching this can understand that you mentioned this Chicago Public School District.
Right.
It's you go and train, and sort of this is a program that other schools, nonprofit organizations can implement in their own services, and it reaches across the country, and this was all started right here in St. Louis.
Right here in St. Louis. St. Louis, in you know, for Wyman Center's program, for parents as teachers, for the great work our friends at College Bound are doing. We are really a thought center, an innovative center for the country in terms of developing programs that make a difference in young people's lives. And we're learning how to scale those now to the rest of the country. So that's exactly what we do, is we help other people do our work well. I like to think of it, you know, we all have our little laptop, and it's got that icon on the laptop that says Intel inside. So we like to think about the Wyman Teen Outreach Program as something that can be embedded in a Boys and Girls Club program. It can be embedded in a school curriculum. It can be embedded in an after-school 21st Century Club. We see it in juvenile justice facilities around the country on First American Native reservations. So it's highly portable, highly adaptable.
And for different communities,
for different communities, different populations of kids, but it gets great outcomes. It reduces the high school dropout rate by 60%. Kids are 50% less likely to get pregnant or cause a pregnancy. They're 60% less likely to drop out of school or fail a course in school or get suspended in school. So, and it's because
outcomes,
and it's because it's not focused at those problems, but rather focused at building the skills kids need to make good choices.
Well, we're going to segue into your team leadership program, because we have this fantastic video that the organization produced, and we're going to watch it actually in its entirety. But to set it up, tell me just briefly with the team leadership program, what is it? So when we watch this video, that we can put it into context.
So the research tells us that growing up takes a long time, and that kids need caring, competent adults, high standards and expectations for performance and participation, a wealth of opportunities to explore the world and figure out where they fit in it, an expectation to serve and give back to others, and most importantly, they need those first 4 things with continuity over time. So we stepped away from the old model of 2 weeks of summer camp, and that was it. Maybe we'll see you next year, maybe we won't, and designed a program that welcomed kids at the end of 7th grade to a 30-day camp experience, supported the rest of the school year by a wealth of supports and opportunities and high expectations, some that we provide, some that our partners provide. And we make a commitment to that kid from the end of 7th grade through sophomore year in college.
Okay. All right, that's well, we're going to take a look at this really wonderful video that shows us exactly that, so take a look.
From east to west, Camp Wyman is the best. I said from pool to pool, Camp Wyman's really cool. Sha-na-na-na-na-na, sha-na-na-na-na-na.
When I hear the words Teen Leadership Program, I think of a group of teens getting together to better themselves towards being leaders. So for a long time, over 100 years, Wyman has been running programs for young people from economically challenged backgrounds. And over time, what we saw was that while those short-term episodic experiences were powerful, they weren't impacting our young people in the long-term way that we really wanted them to. I got involved in this leadership program like any other camper that goes here. I was nominated by a teacher and then went through their selection process. Some are urban, some are rural, some are suburban, but they all have the economic challenge as a common thread, and there are just some universal components to teens that they all need to be challenged. They all need to have some kind of vision for their future, and so that's kind of where they come together. And they clearly want something more for their futures. That's why they're committing 5 years to this program.
When I first came here, I was expecting like all we'll do is have fun, all we'll do is just be outside and do whatever you want and just not like really think about college.
What's your favorite part about camp?
You guys.
So we get this question quite a bit. What do teens actually do in the teen leadership program? Because it sounds a little confusing. Is it a college access program? Is it an outdoor adventure program? Is it a community service program? And the reason it's so successful is that it's an amalgam of all those things. So the hard and fast things that we do, the first 3 years, they have a very serious look at adventure education. They're doing high ropes courses and climbing walls and backpacking trips and whitewater rafting and things like that.
What we're doing is we're taking some of the Trek 2 kids and we're showing them how to properly set up a campsite and some of the things that are easy mistakes that tend to go wrong, like not putting up the tent right, things too close to the fire, things like that.
And our rising juniors will go on a college tour, and they visit about 9 different colleges in about as many days around the Missouri area. And then their 5th year, they're camped out at a local college campus and in the dorms, and they're learning about a few specific community issues that are going on that they'd like to learn more about, learn who the movers and shakers are, who are addressing those situations.
The Teen Leadership Program successes are all of our graduating classes that we've had over the past few years. We have teens that now at this point, it makes me feel old, but now at this point, have master's degrees. We have teens with bachelor's degrees. And it's so great for us to be able to see that they've been able to make it through whatever struggles they've had in their own lives and also make it through the challenges that we've pushed upon them to really help them grow.
I graduated from the program and I feel like I am such a better person for it. I have a lot of patience and my communication skills are at an all-time high compared to where I started. I can work with a group of people that I haven't seen ever and work like we've been working together for years.
Seaweed off. Hi, Mama.
A lot of our teens are used to being the recipients of services and resources, simply from the communities that they come from. And if our teens learn that they are valuable, they have something to give back, that's empowering. My best kind of moment is that warm feeling that I get whenever something feels right, either the warm laughter moments that we have, or the feeling of knowing that somebody is growing and that I had a part in it.
At first when I came here, I thought it was just all fun, but when I came here, I learned that they're gonna teach me how to be a leader in colleges and stuff, and I feel that I know a lot of information now, so I'm ready for the future. What I would like them to walk away with is knowing that they are valuable and talented and capable.
and that the only restrictions they have in their lives are the ones that they perceive themselves.
Without the people that are in this program, Wyman wouldn't be what it is. It'd just be a piece of land with some beautiful trees and creeks, but the actual growing of a person, of a teen that comes here, wouldn't be possible without the amazing people that help to make this program possible.
Hi, I'm Sarah Thompson, and welcome back to City Corner. Today I'm joined by Dave Hilliard. He's the president and CEO of Wyman Center. Before we went to break, we were watching the video on Wyman's team leadership program. Tell me a bit more about the students or the teenagers who are involved in it, like what age group typically, what their backgrounds are.
These are young people who enter our program at the end of 7th grade. They find us through their schools or community-based partners that are our partners in terms of identifying kids with potential who live in homes of low economic means and for whom there aren't very many opportunities to fulfill the potential they already have. And so these kids go through a competitive process of interviews and selection. We get about 4 kids for every one we can accept each year. But once they come into the program, the mission is really to help that young person develop all of their skills, all of their assets, all of their worldview that will help them be successful citizens. And we make, because the research really tells us that growing up is a process that takes place over time, we've decided as an organization to commit to a young person throughout that period of time, so long as the young person meets their obligations to the program, which is community service, which is good grades that they submit and show to us, which is a constructive use of their leisure time, whether that's after-school athletics or a part-time job, they document that to us. Participate in our conferences during the school year. We visit every school. At the high school level, we have lunch with the kids on a bi-weekly basis to check in how they're doing, develop relationships with their parents, show them the world of college, take them to 9 different college campuses in 7 states, so they can have an informed selection about where they go to school, work with our partner organization, the Scholarship Foundation, to help the kids and their parents learn how to make really wise decisions about how to invest in higher education.
So once they're starting in, so that's 7th grade, then they can go every summer.
They're with us through high school graduation, and then they become alums, but we have a bridge program where we support those kids on their college campuses for the first 2 years. And we have partnerships with Missouri State and Southeast Missouri State and Indiana University, working on some other local partnerships where those kids have a commitment from the university of financial support in exchange for community service while they're on campus. And the outcomes, Sarah, are just amazing. You know, all of our kids are graduating high school on time. They're going to colleges or trade schools. They're persisting to success there. Our college coach, who stays in touch with those kids through their first 2 years of college, is a young woman with a master's degree in social work who started out as a 7th grader with us back in 2000.
And so she knows
she knows the path that she's supporting these kids through.
And I think too, it's important, it was mentioned in the video, to say that this isn't just urban youth coming, out to, and we should at some point talk about obviously this beautiful campus of yours, which is out in Eureka, but that it's also students from, or kids from, rural sort of areas?
The common denominator is these are kids from families of limited means. So the per capita income cannot be higher than $10,000 per person, per family member per year. The average is about $6,000. So picture a family of 4 with an income of $24,000. That's the young person that we're serving. And because poverty creates a cap on opportunity, It makes transportation and access to programs worse. It may mean that I live in a community where there aren't many resources for me in the first place and support systems. So we're targeting a group of young people who live in abject poverty, who but for a program like this may not find a path out of poverty. We're convinced that education is the only escape from poverty, but we also know that there are assets that young people need and experiences that young people need to take advantage of the educational offering. So we have kids from, in Jefferson County in the Windsor School District. We have kids from the Metro East Side. We have kids from extreme North County and St. Charles County participating in the program. What's really hopeful for this community is those young people value the relationships they have with people who look different than them and who grow up in different parts of our community. They will tell you above all else that they get out of the program, it's learning to be friends with and walk the walk of somebody who comes from a totally different background than I, because that really helps me determine A, how lucky I am, B, how I can be a leader to build a community that's very diverse and very inclusive.
Well, I think what I really sort of like and want to really again highlight, and you've sort of summed it up in sort of every response, but to put out there is just that we talk about just how the perception that people have of families from low-income backgrounds, and when it comes to education, there is this sort of general sentiment sometimes from a negative perspective of, if you want to go to college, why don't you just go? Why do you need this? And I don't think what sometimes people miss is that it's not just, it's creating those pathways, it's giving people confidence and the wherewithal to see that they can be that. I mean, talk about, tell me the difference of some specific maybe students that you've had how they were when they started and how they were now that they have a master's degree. Where do you think that they would have been, or what was really lacking? Was it confidence? Was it support?
I'll tell you a story that a young woman told me from Cool Valley. As we were in a visitation with some patrons of the organization, we had one young man who was talking about going to Stanford, which I know is your alma mater. And he was proud because he was going to be the first person in his family to go to college. And this young girl stood up and said, I'm proud too. I'll be the first person in my family to graduate from high school. Moreover, I'll be the first woman in my family not to be pregnant before I was 16. Now those are circumstances that our young people are coming from. Not everybody has a clear path. Not everybody understands the pathway from where I am to escape, but we do. And that's the mission that we have, is to help kids learn to be productive, to help kids learn to navigate risk and seize opportunity, to help kids understand how systems and processes work. If you're born in poverty, you don't always understand what the path to college, the path to a job might be. Your worldview may be very constrained to what you see and experience in your life. And if you're born in middle class or upper income families, you have a different worldview. You have a different set of experiences. And if we're going to get kids out of poverty, we have to somehow level the experience field. And we have to level the expectation field. I had great expectations for my 3 sons to succeed in college and life, and they are, and I'm very proud of that. But if I hadn't had those expectations, they may not have ended up the same place. And if I hadn't been able to provide the pathway and the opportunity, they may not have. My kids were born with opportunity. Not all kids are. How do we as a society level the opportunity field without lowering the standard?
Right, and what I love about the organization is that people are maybe, and that's the platform that this show can provide, that people might not realize that what you're doing is successful. There's data for it to show that it's successful, and it's being recognized nationally by the administration. And again, I know you have different programs, but that teen outreach and team leadership, but to kind of bridge that sort of the two services that you have, but to say that what you're doing is making a difference, and it's successful, and people are noticing it, and it's happening right here in St. Louis.
Yeah, it's from St. Louis to the nation.
That's fantastic. I want to be sure to include, we saw some in the video, but to talk about your campus and to talk about your location out in Eureka, because it's absolutely beautiful.
It's a gorgeous 250-acre campus. We call it a campus now because we're orienting these young high school students to think about living on a college campus. And so, but it is the original camp, Wyman, been there since 1900. and vastly improved because this is a generous community. But it's a wonderful place for young people to form community, to have life-changing experiences, figure out who they are, how they fit into the world, and what difference they can make in the world, and that's what it's all about.
Okay, well, I mean, I could talk to you probably the show for an hour, 2 hours, just because there's so many great things that you're doing, and I really applaud you for your dedication. You've been there for quite some time.
Long time.
So congratulations on that, and just to keep up with the excellent work. And for people at home, you really should go to their website. We have a full-page graphic, so you can get that information just to learn more about what the Wyman Center is not just doing here in St. Louis and really in Missouri, but across the country. They're just doing excellent work and changing the lives of so many teens. So thank you for watching us here on STL TV and tuning into City Corner, and please stay with us.